Vito. This is our first podcast, so be easy on us. We want to make a podcast that focuses on simple questions, relatively short, and then we discuss our experience with it. And at the end, we'll see how it goes and give us some feedback. Here is my guest, Tiane, who I worked with for a few years. And it was, pretty good experience. Yeah, Yanni is an engineer. He has several years of development experience. Myself, it's a bit more than 10 now, professionally. Um, and today's topic is going to be how many code reviews are optimal for a team. Like how many code reviews the different teams do and why. And Yanni, just to start the conversation, what is a code review for you? Can you explain how it works?
Code review is actually a practice between developers to review each other's code, to give suggestion to each other, catch some bugs early, some potential issues. It's basically a last check before the code is going out to the world. So yeah, this is the basic version, what it is.
I agree. So to give a little bit more context, I'll try to put it on the screen how it looks like, but pretty much you have some kind of tool like a GitHub or GitLab or something like that, where you can see all the changes that some developer did, and then other developers come and review the code and try to understand why you did the changes, try to spot some bugs, check if you updated everything correctly, this kind of stuff, right?
Learn stuff.
Yeah. Tell me first, like which tools do you use for code review?
We used GitLab together,
Yeah.
but now we use GitHub. It's pretty much the same. But yeah, we do one review. When we work together, we did two at the beginning when we learned because it was needed as we were making much more mistakes and bugs.
Yeah.
But nowadays, it's just one or even small changes goes without review.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like for us, I pretty much just use GitLab and GitHub. I used something else in the past, but it's irrelevant now. Nobody uses it, I think, anymore. And as you said, tools look pretty much the same. They feel pretty much the same. You can comment on a specific line. You can propose changes, and then for the code reviews itself, as you said, sometimes you do multiple, which means multiple people read the code and put an approval on. Sometimes some code bases don't allow you to even merge anything without approvals, right? Even if somebody read through, left some comments, you cannot merge until somebody else gave an actual approval, a seal of confirmation. This is a good thing,
Yeah,
right?
I think GitHub is much stronger on this point because GitLab allows people to merge stuff, but GitHub, I think, you need approval or at least resolve comments that another developer left.
I think it's pretty much both of them can do the same thing, and you can set it up. So on GitLab, I know you can configure that the minimum amount of approvals you need if the threads need to be resolved and all of that stuff. So for me personally, it doesn't really matter which tool you use, right? And then you already mentioned some of the benefits of code reviews. What's the main benefit in your team for code reviews?
At the start, when we worked together, it was to learn and to basically learn stuff, spot new things, new approaches. But at the moment, 5 years later, I think the point of the review is to know what a colleague is working on and to make sense how the things work together. And as a product owner, I need to know what to plan ahead and what's behind and what to communicate to the directors and things like that.
That's an interesting one. I didn't think about this, like that you see what others are working on, especially as you become more senior. Everybody kind of often works in their own branches and their own things, and you're not exactly you don't know all the tickets how they work, right? And so checking someone's code and then also the ticket that comes with the code can help you understand what's happening in the product overall. So you're not just in your own little space. I think that's a really good point. And then I think the one of the really good ones that you also mentioned is for learning. I think it's the best opportunity that you have as a developer, as a senior developer, to mentor the junior is to leave a really good code review. Like the code review that explains what are the right approaches, but not try to be too critical. Like just trying to help them, trying to improve them, and I think this goes really far in teams. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any issues because you didn't do a code review and you skipped it or anything like that?
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes things slipped and some unnecessary code went to the customer, but yeah, we catched it early. I think some common mistakes were with migrations, like stuff break on the back end. So yeah, those were the issues.
Oh, because you are mostly front-end developer, right? These
Yeah,
days, you do back-end as well
yeah,
a little bit, but mostly
yeah.
front-end, right? Yeah, interesting. For me, one of the recent ones that I remember is I started with a new company, new team, new project. I did the first changes, like I can't remember exactly what were the pages, and I tested it well. And I was like, okay, this is all good. I should go forward. I sent it to someone that code reviewed really quickly in a rush because they were super busy. They didn't go in detail, and then I merged it in, right? But realistically, I forgot to test for like several different cases that were around that I didn't think of, and as a result, we had a broken product where the payments, like it was sort of something to do with payments, and I remember people didn't fully understand what was happening, and we had to revert the change, and I had to re-implement things, and there was definitely like a little bit of missed revenue. I think it could be a lot worse. We were quite lucky in that case that that's how it happened. What strategy do you have? Any strategies how you approach the code review so you don't waste too much time, or like how do you try to do it in general?
Um, I read the ticket first, so I
Okay,
get a
with the ticket.
pretty idea what's about, and if I forget, and then go through the difficult code first. So I go through that, and then the easy parts at the end.
Okay. So first read the ticket. I think that's really important because too many times it happened that the developer just comes into the code change, and they're like, what the hell is this change for, And then you go read the ticket and you understand all the motivations behind it and all that. That's a really good one. And then you said the complex parts.
Yep.
I think that's really good too, because this is the hardest to review, and you want to get through that
Yep.
first. So, and then at the end, I guess you said the easiest part is just simple text changes, like the really generic stuff that you
Yep.
don't really need to think about. Okay, that's really cool. Um, and then let's get to the main question of this podcast. How many code reviews you do in your team and why?
We do one review,
Okay.
but yeah, it would depend on the risk that it's behind it, because at the moment we are in the beta stage, but in the few weeks there's coming a production, so there'll be a required at least two, I think.
Okay. Yeah, that's a fair point. So you're saying it really changes based on where the
Yeah.
product is, right? And I totally agree with that. In the past, I worked in the teams where it was really crucial that all the code was reviewed because it was transactional and it transacted like millions per day, right? So we really didn't want to slip any bugs in there, because every minute means like, I don't know, thousands of
Yeah.
dollars of lost revenue. And in that case, we always needed at least two approvals. Every single comment had to be resolved, and everybody had to be clear to go out. But in the current team, it's a bit more relaxed. So, for example, if you're sure about some change, you can just push it out with zero reviews. If you're a bit like unsure, a little bit new as I mentioned earlier, you ask for one single review. And we also don't do them as in depth as we did before, but we trust each other more that you're going to do more testing on your own and all of that stuff.
So I would say that connection between developers is stronger in this team that you're working now.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I would say a connection is stronger. I mean, trust is maybe stronger. Like before, it maybe felt like you could just push something out, and people would review, and you would know somebody else would catch it. You didn't think about it as much. And we also had an entire dedicated team of testers. So you knew like you can push out pretty, let's say, bad code, right? And somebody would catch it either in review or in a testing phase. But here we do the testing ourselves, and the code goes straight out to production. And we try. You should also always review your own code, I think, as well, right? So after you open a merge request, sometimes it happens that you add a change that you didn't really want to, right?
Yeah. So you could say it depends on the responsibility.
And that as well, yeah, exactly.
Because you take a hit if you made a mistake, but in the other team, the Q&A would take the blame.
Yeah, that's a fair point. So yeah, depends who would let it through, right? It was
so you're more careful if it's you.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, exactly. You are a lot more careful if it's you. Okay. Do you have any closing thoughts on reviews? Anything you want to add?
Not really.
Let me think for a second if you have something cool, something important to say about code reviews.
Let's see if our fans have any questions.
Our fans? Oh, that's a good question. Mike373. Oh, we're just joking. There is no commenters there. But the question is, like, how do you manage the code review when there is a massive feature coming in, right? If let's say you're developing almost entire new platform or something, or several new pages with lots of complexity, like how do you go around that?
Yeah, it's pretty tough. We've seen PRs that are 1,000 lines long, and pretty standard is that first you go on a call with that person, so you at least get a more round idea.
Cool. That's a good one.
What it's about, because you can't describe in ticket so much that it takes like 1,000 lines of code. But yeah, this is a bad practice, I would say, because as you teach us at the beginning, you need smaller PRs. But yeah, sometimes there is a snake.
Yeah, there's a snake, and some feature it's hard to make them small, right? From my experience, I think, yeah, you always try to keep the PR small, the change as small as possible. You know, if you can make one simple change and you're gonna add another one later, you ask them to be reviewed separately. And if you can't make this, I like to open a new branch, and then I ask for a review of the first commit, and I tell them, as you said, you start with a call, you explain it, especially if it's gonna be like monstrosity of a PR. Yeah, you start, and then you can ask for each subsequential change.
But yeah, in retrospective, I think if it takes 1,000 lines of code, I think the mistake was in the planning.
Yeah,
because it wasn't planned enough and break down in smaller pieces of the tickets that are needed.
I would agree. Yeah, this is probably most often the case.
So usually for this mistake is one ticket, do this flow, and the person does a whole flow, like 10 screens with each have logic. And yeah, it's too big.
Yeah, and then what do you do if, for example, somebody says like do this, but you don't agree? You know, how do you handle disagreements on a code review?
Yeah, we debate first what's the best approach and what's more suitable for this product, because there are different angles. What would be the best option?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think at the end we take the safer option and a better practice code-wise.
Okay. But I think often it like happens as it's purely opinions and stuff like that.
Do you have any specific example in mind?
A specific example in mind would be where a person maybe just asks you, you know, like I would prefer if this was written, like if this was extracted in I don't know, a separate component, but you are maybe thinking, look, it's such a small thing. It could be in here, you know, and you don't need to jump to another file to see a thing. You know, it's completely subjective.
Yeah, but like we had a document put together, what are the code lines that we all follow.
Yeah.
Like when do you do a separate component? So you have rules in place, like for that example, so you don't generalize if there's no need.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you don't assume there will be ever that component reused, for example.
Yeah. Okay. So you try to fall back with the rules and point to different things. Start with a debate. One more thing I would add here is that if it's really subjective, I personally, if somebody writes a comment and he feels like strongly about it, if it's a simple change, I'll just do it for the sake of them, and I don't really care if my opinion is slightly different. You know, as long as I don't think it's worse, right? If I think it's about the same thing, I just let it go, whatever they want. You know.
Yeah, if it's a valid point, yes, but if it keeps happening and it's annoying,
Yeah.
I would just tell them what's the most appropriate approach.
Yeah. I guess that's a good point. So it's time to like reevaluate, speak with the person, and say like, hey, maybe about completely trivial things, we don't even need a comment. Can we maybe set up a linter or
Yeah.
something like that to resolve those things? And you know, there shouldn't be any more discussion about that, because
Yeah.
otherwise they always creep in this discussion and you have discussion about a pointless thing, really. You know.
Yeah. I think we had a point in our reviews when we worked together about the inline code for the stars, and we put a automatic check together, so that comment was not happening anymore in the PRs.
What do you mean inline code? What was it?
Like the stars, like margin top in the.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we've been working with a lot with React Native, right?
Yeah.
And with React Native, you usually define the styles in the same file as objects,
Yeah,
but we tended to just put it inline.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. I forgot about this. Yeah, a thing like that, for example, so you don't always have comments like that. You can just skip it. And
because usually there were like 5 comments about this problem, and
yeah,
it was not needed at the end.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Okay. And now, finally, any other questions you have?
I think that's all for today.
Okay.
We are already long.
Thanks, everyone. I hope this was useful. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. If you have any suggestions, let us know. It's our first podcast ever. So we would be happy to hear everything. And of course, subscribe, like, what else can they do?
Follow,
retweet, pay us money,
send email,
send email. That's gonna be a good one because it feels
subscribe
great.
to our newsletter.
Subscribe to a newsletter. Oh yeah, that's a good point I should probably mention. The questions that are gonna be chosen for this podcast are gonna come from a newsletter that I'm starting, and people can post the questions and they can vote on them, which ones they wanna discuss. And later on, you know, as the question is asked, everybody also gets the email and they can answer with their how they do the things in their teams, right? So hopefully next time we have some data points and we can discuss the data points. We are not just talking blindly.
Nice.
That's
Looking
it.
forward to it.
Nice. Thank you, Jani. Have a good day, and everyone, see you soon. Bye bye.
See ya.